Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining our today's webinar. So today we are going to talk about strategy in business analysis, and we will talk also express desires and real needs of our stakeholders and clients and enterprises. Okay, let's start. Well, I want to thank you, everybody, for joining. And I know that you may be all in different countries and the time is different from you. So thank you very much for making it happen and for joining today's webinar. This webinar is being hosted by Advanced Edge Professional Services. And my name is Anastasia Antina, and I'm the founder of Advanced Edge Professional Services. We are based in Toronto, Canada, and we have the status of endorsed education provider of the International Institute of Business Analysis, and this is our second webinar in the series of our bi-weekly free webinars. So let's start. I want to tell you a little bit more about Advanced Edge Professional Services. So our main services are focused on preparing business analysts and those who are performing business analysis activities, regardless of their job titles, to pass the exams of the International Institute of Business Analysis. The three core certifications are ECB, CCB, and CBAP, and we provide the courses designed and aimed to prepare you for the successful exams, right? So feel free to visit our website. We also have a free guide called Roadmap to your IAB certification. You can download it from our website. So also our next webinar will take place on September the 11th, same time as today, 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time or Toronto time. It will also be an online Zoom session, 1 hour, and the topic of that webinar will be soft skills for effective business analysis. We all know that it is not only the hard skills that we need, but also the soft skills. So we will talk about that next in 2 weeks, I'm sorry. So let's start with our today's webinar. Today's webinar's learning objectives are the following. We will talk about what strategy is, why business analysts are involved in strategy analysis. We will talk about the current and the future state analysis, how to identify gaps and define change strategies. We will also cover several examples, and we will have pro tips during our webinar that will be shared on the screen. So let's start. So first of all, let's start with the question, why strategy analysis? Why business analysts are responsible and are actively engaged in strategy analysis? Well, as you probably all know, the main or one of the main books in the area of business analysis is the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge, or the BABOK Guide, that was elaborated, published, and released by the International Institute of Business Analysis. And the BABOK Guide lists 6 knowledge areas, or in other words, areas of responsibilities that business analysts should be working in order to successfully complete their business analysis activities. But again, depending on the context, depending on a certain change process that you're working on, business analysts should identify the knowledge areas that they should currently focus on and which tasks they should be working on. So back to the BABOK Guide. According to the BABOK Guide, there are 6 knowledge areas that business analysts perform their activities in. Knowledge area number 1 is business analysis planning and monitoring. Knowledge area number 2 is elicitation and collaboration. Then we have requirements lifecycle management, strategy analysis, requirements analysis and design definition, and solution evaluation. So as you can see, strategy analysis is one of those knowledge areas that has 4 tasks that business analysts should work on while performing their business analysis activities. but again, one more time, I'll say that depending on the context, on the certain initiative, on the situation, on the enterprise, business analysts should define whether which tasks they should be working on in which knowledge areas. And these six business areas, they are not sequential. They business analysts can work in them in parallel or one after another. Again, everything depends on the context. So what is strategy? At its core, strategy is about how. The keyword is how you will get from A to B, right? So assume you have point A, you have point B, and there are multiple, numerous ways, for example, to get from A to B, right? And the exact way that you select to get from A to B is strategy. That's the definition of the strategy, right? How you get from A to B. And from its very definition, we see that to be able to work in the strategy analysis knowledge area to successfully cope with these tasks, we need, of course, to define our A and our B, or in other words, our current state and our desired future state. I say our, but I mean like the current state of the enterprise and the desired future state of the enterprise, or business analysis can be conducted on different perspectives, on different levels. So it can be not the whole enterprise that you analyze strategy for. It can be a department, right? Or exact solution or a business process. So it's not necessarily the whole enterprise, but it may also happen. So here we have an example. Assume a company decides to automate the process of clients management, right? This is the request. And we need to think about the strategy, how this can be done. And we have the current state. For example, currently they track all their clients in a notebook on paper, old-fashioned way, right? And they want to add some automation into this. The desired future state is having all the clients in some sort of system, or at least on the computer, right? Here's our A, here's our B, and the possible ways to get from A to B will be probably just migrating all client accounts from the notebook to an Excel document, right? And work with that Excel document, or probably build a custom software, custom CRM system, or buy an off-the-shelf solution, or probably introduce a low-code platform, right? Purchase a license and code those fields required for our clients. And these are all the possible options, but the more we understand about the current state, including restrictions, budget limitations, and so on, the more we understand about the future state, the better strategies, the more appropriate strategies that would deliver the most value in this particular context for this particular enterprise will become more obvious, right? Let's proceed. So here we have our first tip. It's about early solutioning, right? So early solutioning is when we start discussing the desired solution too early, right? For example, we miss or do not complete the current state analysis, but we already define the desired future state, right? And it is very important to keep the right balance here. It's not like you cannot think about the desired future state until everything about current state is well known and agreed by everyone. No, it may be done in parallel, but it is very important to remember that you cannot fully understand the desired future state and the strategies that you might propose until you have the understanding and enough, I should say, understanding of the current state. So not knowing enough of the current state, or not knowing anything except just 2 lines of text, like we need to automate, we need to have our clients' information on computer instead having them on paper, might not be enough to propose the best ways to get to the desired future state. Okay? So in here I have an example based on Google Maps. So again, the strategy is all about getting from A to B, selecting the most appropriate way that is the most suitable and delivers the most value to the enterprise. And think about Google Maps. When you go and find a location that you want to get to, even Google Maps will never build a route, or in other words, the strategy, right, for you to get there until you tell them your current location or the location where you will start your journey, right? So not just having the B or the point where you want to get is not enough. To be able to propose a strategy or to find the route to that B, you must have A. You should have the description, which is sufficient of the current state. Let's proceed. So again, why current state analysis? Why should we work on it? Why should we invest our effort into the current state analysis? Because always to get to the next level, assume you are going upstairs, right? You need to understand the level where you currently are. That's the rule. And also, incorrect or incomplete current state analysis may lead to such consequences as wrong estimates, promising lower budget for the initiative, right? Giving the incorrect timelines to your stakeholders that might get then disappointed because their timelines are incorrect and they are not getting the ready solution by the time they expected to get that. It is also a waste of effort, missed deadlines, incorrect identification of the scope of work, and also failed initiative as a result. Why am I saying this and again showing you Google Maps? So we have just listed the possible consequences of the incomplete, missed or incorrect or insufficient current state analysis. So assume here, if you take a closer look, you can see that the starting point, I'm saying that, well, I'm in city of Turin, Italy, and I want to go to Paris, right? What are my options? And Google Maps tell me, well, you can go by car and it will take 8.5 hours. There is no option to go by public transport so far. You can walk for 7 days or you can ride a bike for 2 days, right? These are my three possible strategies. Go by car, walk, ride a bike. And assume that this is the reality. In reality, I am in Turin. But if we make an incomplete current state analysis, if we do not complete our current state analysis and do not define that I am in Turin and say, well, I'm somewhere in Italy and I need to go to Paris, right? What are my options? Well, or base our current state analysis on assumptions to say, well, maybe I am in Palermo, right? Palermo is also Italy, but it is much further from Paris than Turin. And then our change strategies or our ways to get to the point B, which is Paris in my example, is, well, then you have to go by car for 24 hours almost, or you can go by public transport. This was not an option if I am in Turin for 1 day, or you can walk for 13 days instead of 7, or ride a bike for 4 days instead of 2. See how the current state or the current location influences the possible strategies, the possible approaches to get to the desired future state or to the desired future location in my case, right? To Paris. And that is why I'm saying that incorrect, incomplete, or missed current state analysis leads to incorrectly selected strategies. Because here, if I say I'm in Turin, I might pick Well, okay, I ride the bike for today, is no problem. But I start ride it for 2 days. And if in reality I was in Palermo, in 2 days I will never get to Paris. I will make only halfway, right? And that is where we do not meet the expectations of stakeholders. Deadlines get missed, and probably the whole initiative gets missed. And we have a waste of effort and money because if I knew that it would take 4 days, I wouldn't even consider this option, the option of riding a bike, right? And I would go by public transport. The example here with Google Maps, it's not about enterprise analysis, right? It is not about software development, but it really clearly shows how incorrect identification of or the current state can lead to the mistakes, errors, and failures of the whole initiative. Okay, so what is current state analysis? So assume we are performing the current state analysis on the level of the whole enterprise, right? As I've mentioned before, the perspectives and business analysis that business analysts work with might be very different. Think of it as of a funnel, right? The very high level is the whole enterprise. Then we might work on the improvements within a certain department or probably within a certain team or a business process or a solution or a certain activity or a feature, right? Even a feature requires strategy analysis at some point when we decide on the best option to implement that feature. For example, we need to integrate for payments processing. What do we do? Do we build custom code? Do we integrate with a ready solution, or do we outsource this activity to somebody else? So in my example here, we will be talking about the whole enterprise. So in this example, the current state analysis would include, well, first of all, the business needs, the internal factors internal to the enterprise that are inside, such as what are the business needs? What is the structure of the business or of the enterprise? What is the culture within an enterprise? Is it very formal or informal? What is the decision-making environment? How people collaborate and work with each other? How certain processes are designed? What are the rules and policies that help people make decisions at their day-to-day work? What capabilities does the enterprise have? What technology do they have, such as like hardware and probably software and software solutions, what infrastructure they have? This is everything that is internal to the enterprise. But within current state analysis task, we should always think about the exterior, so to say, right? Or those factors that outside the enterprise, the industry structure that the enterprise operates in. What are their competitors, customers, suppliers, partners? What is the political environment, probably in the state where the company operates? What regulatory environment can influence our strategies, and or what regulatory environment and factors should we be aware of? The technology that is available out there, and even macroeconomic factors, right? And this is a lot to analyze, right? When doing current state analysis. But again, it is the responsibility of the business analyst not to waste effort and spend too much time on this task. You should be able to define and stop when it is sufficient. You need to understand like which factors you need to know, you need to be aware of at the current context, select only those that you really need, and conduct a very thorough analysis on those factors. It's not like you have to do everything at all the times. No, you have to understand what is sufficient and what you need. So the types of the questions that business analysts may ask when they perform current state analysis, like what is the company's mission, vision, goals, and strategy, how the organizational structure looks like, what is the hierarchy within the company, or the organizational structure is mostly flat. Who are the key decision makers in each area, for example, in finance, in sign-offs for the software development, and so on. If you're analyzing certain business processes and work not on the strat company level, on the enterprise level, but if you analyze certain business processes and your work is to improve those business processes, who is involved in the current process X, for example, right? What are the steps in that process? What are the advantages, and those activities, steps, or advantages should be kept? What are the disadvantages? What should be improved? What rules are used in the decision making for this process, probably, right? And what are the regulatory requirements that we should adhere to, and so on and so forth. The more complete, but not redundant, I should say, probably, business analysis is, the better strategies, the approaches to improve the situation and drive the change management process, you will be able to propose as a business analyst. Tip 2, express desires versus real needs. Sometimes we might have stakeholders who tell us their expressed desires instead of the real business need. And business analysts should be able to first listen attentively to their stakeholders and be able to recognize when they are talking about their expressed desires instead of real needs, and react appropriately, ask more questions to get to those real needs rather than staying on the rather than staying on the level where we discussed those expressed desires, right? Here is an example. We need to integrate with the payment processor X, tells us our stakeholder. Is this an expressed desire or a real need? Like, why do we need to integrate with the payment processor? Why do we need to integrate with the payment processor X? Why not with payment processor Y, for example, right? Or ABC? What are the real needs that we are trying to solve, or what are the opportunities that we are trying to address? And the real need, if the business analyst keeps asking questions and finds those real needs, they may sound as, well, we need to automate the process of collecting payments from our customers so that we shorten the delay period for receiving payments. Because currently, assume this is a consulting agency, right? Currently, we accept only offline payments. And if we have a customer or a potential customer or a lead, they submit a request to us, then we wait for them to come to our office and pay, and only then we can start working on the service for them. And this wait period for the payment may take up to a month or probably several months. Well, we do not want that to happen. We want that to be improved. We want to be able to send a link to the clients and say, here's your link, please pay online. And this will probably help us to shorten that delay period or wait period for payment from 1 month to a day, which is significant difference, right? And when we understand that real need instead of the expressed desire, we have much more options to offer, right? Because now when we understand we need, we can say, well, what are the method of payments that you want to accept? How will your clients pay? Will they pay by credit or debit card, or will they pay by check, or will they pay by bank account credentials? And the stakeholder says, well, I need them to pay by bank account credentials. And we say, okay, then the payment processor X is not the option, because it appears that they only process credit card payments. And this is where we find the mistake, right? If we kept working with that express desire instead of trying to find the real need and just agreed with the stakeholder and started the integration with the payment processor X, we wouldn't solve that need that they came with, because payment processor X doesn't process bank account payments. They work only with credit cards. Moreover, it wouldn't solve the problem of delay period in payments, because when you integrate with that payment processor, they take the money from your client, but they do not send it immediately to you. They keep the money for 30 days and only then they send the money to you. And probably this is not an appropriate option for our stakeholder, right? So there are many, many mistakes that can be made in case we work with express desires instead of the real needs. So always try to understand the real needs, because it gives you the options to propose more valuable strategies for your stakeholders. Tip 3, the shared understanding. This is also very important. Sometimes we assume, especially if you are the only business analyst, probably, or even if you are working within a team of business analysts, that you need to understand, for example, the current state, or you need to define the future state, right? But please keep in mind that it shouldn't be only your understanding of either the current state or the future state, or of a requirement or some business analysis data. It should always be the shared understanding. Shared by who, you may ask? Depends on the context and on the particular information that you want to have shared understanding about. If we're talking about the current state analysis, once we analyze and understand the current state, as business analysts, we have also to be able to recognize who are those stakeholders who should have the shared understanding on the current state analysis, the shared understanding on the desired future state, so that we can propose the strategies that they can actually consider, right? If we have that shared understanding with our key stakeholders, that allows us to avoid misunderstanding and probably even sometimes align our stakeholders. How do you achieve that shared understanding? Well, first of all, you collect the data, you synthesize it, you present it in some other formats, you document it, and then you go back to your stakeholders and present this information to them, saying like, well, we see that currently this process looks like A, B, C, and D. A and B are crucial, they should be kept, C should be improved, and we think that, and stakeholders say, yes, that is right, or no, sorry, you are missing one step in the process, let's add this, right? So through communication, you achieve that shared and agreed understanding with your stakeholders. Then future state analysis. Once we are done, this is a little bit an artificial scenario because it is always an iterative process. Well, at least once you have the sufficient understanding of your current state, you also need to define, well, where are we going to? What do we want to achieve? What is our desired future state, right? Because again, if we go back to our Google Maps example, okay, I was saying that we cannot build a route without having an A, the current location. Well, we also cannot build that route or propose a strategy without having the B, right? Because we need to know where we're going and we need to propose the best way to get to that particular desired future state, not to somewhere in France, right? In my example, but to Paris. So when we talk about the desired future state, we need to understand what are the business goals if this strategy analysis, again, is conducted on the perspective of the whole enterprise, or if it is on the level of a department, what is that they want to achieve? If it is on the level of the business process, what would be their KPIs for the improved business process, like how much time it would take, what deliverables will it produce, who will be involved and who will not be involved, and so on and so forth. The scope of the solution, again, probably the organizational structure and culture will have to be adapted to the new process, right? The business rules and policies that will become redundant and useless and need to be updated or need to be introduced, probably some new ones, and technology and infrastructure that might be required to achieve the desired future state. Again, why to define the future state? Well, I have covered this a little bit earlier, but again, we need the shared understanding and the vision for change, right? Assume you are not working on a feature level, but even on the feature level, right? And if you're Moreover, if you are working on the enterprise level, you need to understand why this change is going to happen, why we need to go to that B state, what is our vision for change. This vision for change and this shared understanding of at least key stakeholders, but more powerfully among all the employees, sets the environment where more people tend to collaborate, to share information, to engage, to make that change happen. And it is also important to raise the motivation. When I was working as a project manager and I was onboarding new team members to our software development team, I've always shared with them the vision for change, why we are developing this software for our client, why they need it. For example, this will allow our client to attract more customers, right? They will be able to enter this and that market, and this is why it is important to implement this solution for them. Well, currently they are struggling because their current solution is very slow and it always gives them errors and mistakes, and this motivates people. They want to go through this change. Comparing to the situation when we don't have the shared understanding of the B or of our desired future state, people start feeling fear. They do not know what's going on, why their boss is telling them to do this or that, why are we changing everything, who needs this? And instead of getting buy-in and a higher level of collaboration and willingness to engage, we get the situation where people do not want to collaborate, right? They do not want to engage. They resist everything what is happening, and it is very hard to conduct business analysis activities in such environment because business analysis results are highly dependent on the collaboration with stakeholders. Okay, and one more tip. When we are talking about the desired future state and the current state and the possible strategies and the gaps that we have here, and we propose a solution, right? Assume we are talking about, right now we are talking about a software development industry, and we propose our stakeholders probably to implement a custom software, and we tend to specify what is in scope, how the software will be built, what features it will include, what goals it will help the enterprise to accomplish, and so on and so forth. And somewhere in the assumptions of every single individual, of every single stakeholders, they might hear this in-scope features and capabilities differently, right? And that is why it is also important to align everybody and say honestly and transparently what is out of scope. Saying that this is in scope is great, but it is also important to say, well, this is currently out of scope. At least for phase one, for example. This helps to align stakeholders, to align their expectations, not to expect something that they assumed would be done when it was never discussed before, and this builds the solid ground, the foundation for efficient collaboration and long-lasting relationships. So now we have our current state, we have our desired future state, we have the shared and agreed by the key stakeholders understanding of these two states. Now we need to identify the gap, what we need to get to the B, what is different in B from today's A. We understand the gap and present all the possible options to our key stakeholders and decision makers who are empowered to make the decisions about the strategy, how we can now get from A to B. Right? And back to my example with Google Maps, Turin and Paris. Well, we have defined that the current state is Turin, right? We have defined that the desired future state is Paris. Great. Now we have to understand the gap. Well, the gap is about 770 kilometers, and our possible options is 8 hours by car, 7 days by foot, or 2 days by bike. And we present all these three possible options to our key stakeholders so that they can make an informative decision. The key word here is the informative decision. if we compare and present several options, they have to be compared. They must be compared by the same parameters. If we talk about advantages for one of them, we should list those advantages for all of them. It's not like you're already leaning towards going by car, and that is why you kind of advertise this option more, not saying about the disadvantages such as the higher cost, probably, right? The cost of car rent, the cost of the gasoline, and so on and so forth, paid roads. If you compare the options and present something about one option, some information, present typical information or like the information based on the same parameter for all the options. Some parameters that can be considered is probably price, risks, advantages, disadvantages, and timeline. But again, this is not the complete list. Depending on the exact context, situation, on the perspective that you are working on, like the enterprise level, department, solution, feature, process, module, probably, you select the parameters that are the most applicable and relevant for your situation. And tip 5, adapting to stakeholder needs. So here I was talking about presenting the free options to your stakeholders, right? And it is important to remember about your information recipients, who you are going to present this information to, those options. If you are going to present them to the business owner, define the level of detail that the business owner needs, the level of formality and the format of the information. If you are presenting those options to the end users, you should think about the same strategy options from a different perspective and present those options, those strategy options to the end users, probably using a different format, mockups probably, or flow diagrams or something else, right? If you are talking to a sponsor, to the person who is paying for the whole initiative, probably they will need the grid with all the risks and costs and so on. So basically, we are talking about the possible options, the strategies to get from A to B, but make sure it is not one single format that works for all. If it works, that's great, but think about the most convenient way to accept, understand, and process information for those people who will be working with those deliverables, with those documents that you are working on. And again, we have covered this already. I was saying that all the options have to be compared using and following the same format, right? It's not like we like option 1 more. That is why we talk a lot about its advantages, and we really dislike option number 2, and that is why we talk only about its disadvantages. If we talk about advantages, we talk about advantages for all the options. If we talk about disadvantages, we talk about disadvantages for all the options. If a certain options truly doesn't have any disadvantages, if it's likely to happen, great, just say, well, currently now no disadvantages have been found. Okay. And now I want to provide you with an example about a restaurant and see how the current state, future state analysis can be made, and some important steps should be done. So assume we have a successful and profitable restaurant, and their monthly revenue is $50,000. And the food currently is served only in one location. There are no online orders. And now we have the business owner who wants to expand the business and increase the monthly revenue. And the initial request sounds the following way. We need to partner with a delivery service, ABC, so that we can start selling online, right? That's the request that the business analyst receives. Well, the first thing to consider is like, is this an expressed desire or a real need? What do we know currently about the problem or the opportunity that the business owner is trying to address? Well, that very sentence, partner with a delivery service ABC so that we can start selling online, sounds more as an expressed desire. The business analyst should be able to recognize that and to start interviewing the stakeholders, or probably just the business owner, to understand the real need that stands behind that expressed desire. So the business analysts start analyzing, sorry for using the same word, the current state, and asks questions, collects information, and sees that the expressed desire is partner with the delivery service ABC and sell online, while the real needs are the following. Well, yes, we want to increase monthly revenue, but again, if we just partner with a delivery service ABC, does it necessarily mean that we will increase our monthly revenue? No, probably not necessarily, because probably no one will be buying from us in that delivery service. Probably the restaurant is not well known yet. Probably the prices are going to be too high for the delivery service comparing to other restaurants that are placed there. So it doesn't really help us with our real need. Then the second real need is we want to improve predictability of orders and cut costs on the waste represented as spoiled ingredients. As in our restaurant, we do not really know what exactly people are going to order today. We buy ingredients like for everything that we have presented in our menu, but then every evening, customers tend to order more of one dish compared to the other, and that is why we have lots of spoiled ingredients, lots of spoiled food, and we throw that away, and that is a big waste for us, and that is where we lose in our revenue instead of going up, right? And we also to improve the quality of our service, because it appears that we are a very popular restaurant in the current area. We have only one physical location. People come, but all the tables are like we have no available tables, and people queue outside and wait, and they get disappointed and they leave, and this is not what we want, right? So what can we do with this? Well, we need within the current state analysis probably understand the mission of the restaurant, and so the mission, the type of food they serve, the organizational structure, the policies, so that we know, is that possible to probably open another physical location for that restaurant? Will it be more profitable? Or are we serving like high quality, very expensive food, or it is like not very expensive food? Or is it a fast food restaurant? Is our food appropriate for the delivery service that the business owner has named at the beginning, right? So we need to probably know the mission also to understand whether they are open to uh, opening restaurants probably in different cities. We need to understand who are our main competitors and how do they solve typical problems, how much they sell and earn, right? We probably also need to understand who are our current vendors and main partners, so that we can probably order more from them. If we start order more, is that possible to order more from them? Are they capable of giving us sending us more ingredients, and so on and so forth? So different factors that business analysts should consider and analyze. Then we need to understand the desired future state. What is the business strategy for the upcoming year? Well, it appears that the business strategy is that this is a local, high quality restaurant. The food is expensive, but it is super good, and it is not part of the business strategy to open many locations and build a chain. They want to be very small and stay in just one location. This is part of their strategy and mission, and that is why they are not considering an option of opening another restaurant. And also for the current year, it is not also part of their strategy to double the number of employees so that they can start preparing much more food. So we have to work with the same number of employees that we have in the kitchen, and probably also in the restaurant itself, like waiters. We cannot hire 10 more people, maybe. And that is where we can think about other strategy options. Well, probably we need to train the existing staff so that they can improve certain processes and increase the efficiency, right? So let's proceed. So now when we know the current state and the desired future state, like we want to increase revenue by 20%, we are not open to building a new location. We are serving only high quality, expensive food, and we do not want to hire many more people. We want to keep the current number of employees. But yes, we are open to training opportunities, to reviewing our business processes and understanding how we can serve more efficiently. And here we may find that, well, actually, the integration, so to say, with the delivery service ABC is not our option, because such type of food is not typically sold. For example, the delivery service ABC is more about fast food, and we are not a fast food restaurant, and that is why even if they agree to partner with us, we might not be selling well, and they will also be taking, I'm making it up, but still, they may be taking like 25% of their revenue, and this is not what we can do, because we will lose money on that partnership. But instead, we can partner with the delivery service XYZ, because they serve high quality food. Their percentage that they keep is less, and it is a better option, right? We also agree to launch personal self-developed delivery service, and also we to deal with that real need. Let's go back to the real needs. Improve the predictability of orders and cut costs on the waste represented as spoiled ingredients. As business analysts, we see the strategy to improve this in improving the existing restaurant's website a little bit. Assume currently the restaurant has a website where people can book a table, reserve a table, and we want to add a little button there saying, do you already know what you want to order? And this is not a mandatory step. People who do not want to do this, they may skip it, but those who do want, they may tell us already what they will be ordering and make a prepayment so that we can predict and see what they are going to order and buy those ingredients that will be needed. This is an option that can help us work with that need and improve the predictability of orders, right? And also to work with the other need, which sounds as cut costs on the spoiled ingredients that get thrown away. We propose to launch the program called Recommended by the Head Chef. Depending on what ingredients we still have available and that are still good, we daily update the recommended by the chef menu items and advertise them to those people who come to the restaurant today so that they order more of these menu items, and we use those ingredients that are still good today, tomorrow, and probably the day after tomorrow, but then if they are not used, they will have to be thrown away. So these are several strategies that can work in the current scenario. Business analysts can propose them all and let the key stakeholders decide which options they want to go with, or probably the combination of the options they want to go with. Probably launch the recommended by the head chef program immediately, because it doesn't take much, and simultaneously start working on the website improvement. That is also not a big project probably, and then start working on the personal delivery service without partnering with any delivery services, because it seems to be a better approach to keep and promote the brand name and also to cut costs on the percentage that the delivery services tend to take from your sales on their platforms. Okay, and so these approaches can be prioritized and addressed probably simultaneously or one after another. This is an example of the strategy analysis for a restaurant. And again, I want to remind you that strategy analysis is not necessarily completed on the whole enterprise level. I understand that many of you as business analysts work in software development companies, and the analysis that you're working on may be happening on the department level, a process, a business process level, certain solution component or module, or probably feature. And all those rules that we have discussed today are also applicable. Assume you have a stakeholder who come and says, well, we already have a working software solution used in our company. I want a big round pink button in the middle saying download report. And if you start asking questions like, this is an express desire, right? We need to understand the need. Why pink? Why round? Why do I need to download this report? Why do you want this button to be in the middle of the screen? I'm exaggerating, but this is how all the same rules are working on the feature level, right? And then through your questions and the analysis activities, you find out that they need to download to be able then to send it to the customer who the report is generated for. Well, to limit the number of steps and do not make it the way like you download, then you open your Outlook, create an email, attach that report and send it to the customer. Instead, you say, well, we can make a small rectangular button saying send the report to the customer and create a template for the email so that the report is sent to the customer immediately by just one click instead of downloading, creating an email, attaching, and do not forget to attach that report, right? Attaching that report and then sending the email to the customer. This is how all the same steps can be applied even on the feature level. Okay, so here's the webinar summary. Today we have learned that you need both A and B to propose an effective change strategy. And to have the A, you have to understand the real needs, not just express desires. Then you need to understand the B, the desired future state, where the enterprise wants to get, right? And you need to have the shared understanding of both A and B with your key stakeholders so that there are no misinterpretation, misunderstandings, errors, and mistakes in the future. We have also discussed that there may be multiple change strategies proposed. All the change strategies should be compared and presented using the same parameters. And as a business analyst, you should be able to provide sufficient information and present it in the most relevant way for your information recipients, for your key stakeholders, so that they can make informative decisions about those proposed change strategies or probably about the recommended options. And the team may start working on the strategy that delivers the most value to the enterprise. And remember about the perspectives that I have been talking about throughout our webinar, that it is not necessarily the enterprise level strategy analysis. It can be department, module, business process, system component, feature. Okay, so our next webinar is scheduled for September 11th, same time as today, 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time or Toronto time. It will be an online 1-hour Zoom session. The subject is soft skills for effective business analysis. If you want to come, please register for the webinar so that we can share with you the webinar access information. If there are any questions, I'm ready to answer those. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's stay in touch. Visit our website for more information on the business analysis courses, IIBA certification preparation courses, and other business analysis trainings. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us either by email info@advancedh.org or send me a direct message in LinkedIn. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this was useful and you can apply this knowledge at your day-to-day work. Thank you very much. See you in 2 weeks.